Good evening, ghoulies and ghosties and long-leggedy beasties. This is Alex coming at you from the underworld, and welcome back to another episode of... Alright, I know. This video is about a month and a half behind, but before I could upload it, I wanted to post my review for Jennifer McMahon's The Winter People, as that was the last book I had read in 2024. And before I dive into what books scared me throughout that previous year, to be perfectly honest, until about last September, I was actually afraid that I wouldn't be able to do this video because I hadn't read 3 books that had actually scared me. I mean, of course, there were gory books and creepy books, but none that really delivered a good scare factor. However, to my pleasant surprise, fate gave me exactly what I needed right before Christmas, which, granted, I had already read one of the books on this list during my childhood, so I knew that book was going to be a given. But the other books, those took me by complete surprise. And as a side note, 2025 seems like it's going to be a promising year because I've already read a book that scared the hell out of me, which hopefully I'll have that review up sooner than later, but my next video will actually have Connie return as my special guest, as we had buddy read Anne Rice's sequel to The Witching Hour called Lasher, which unfortunately Lasher didn't scare me, but it did definitely disturb me. Anywho, before I get too far ahead of myself, I'm going to quit my rambling, and in no particular order, these are the top 3 books that scared the ever-loving living hell out of me in 2024. First up is a book that I hold dear to me, because during my teenage years, it came highly recommended by my belated great-aunt Carrie. Then recently, my good friend Tammy requested that I review it. And prior to doing so, I gathered up a fairly extensive reading group because I figured most of the people that I read books with would enjoy this. But, of course, I'm speaking about Anne Rice's The Witching Hour. Now, the main focus of this work is pretty simple, as it follows a neurosurgeon named Rowan Mayfair, who has recently inherited her mother's old New Orleans mansion. However, little does she know, this particular residence is rumored to be haunted by the devil himself. Meanwhile, in the process of Rowan claiming her inheritance, not only does she fall in love with a psychic named Michael, who she had previously saved from drowning, but she discovers that she is actually descended from a family tree that is full of witchcraft, incest, scandal, and murder. From here, it's revealed that Rowan is the 13th witch in a bloodline of witches that date back to the Burning Times. And since she is the most powerful witch of them all, it's eventually established that she is to fulfill a prophecy which will allow the malevolent spirit known as Lasher to exist in the flesh. Overall, this book had a strong level of tension that built from beginning to end. And while there were no gross-out scenes and the frightening moments were few and in between, Rice knew how to deliver an effective scare that could terrify her readers long after everything was said and done. For example, there were multiple scenes where Lasher crept about, and because of how these scenes were orchestrated, it made me want to pull my blinds long before nightfall. Yet, those aren't even the moments that chilled me to my core. Instead, what sealed the deal for me was the documentation of Peter von Arbel having been found in the cemetery and what led up to that. Also, there's this birthing scene near the end that is an absolute punch in the gut, and while I'm not female, Rice's presentation of a blasphemous birth is pure nightmare fuel, even for me. Aside from that, if you're a mood reader, this is an ideal book to read in the month of December, as the final showdown does take place on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Next up is Stephen King's gothic classic, The Shining, which this plot follows the Torrance family who had been currently down on their luck. Yet, upon Jack landing a job as caretaker for the historic Overlook Hotel during its wintry off-season, there seems to be hope for finally getting back on track. However, shortly after Jack and his family move into the Overlook, where they will be completely isolated for the following months, strange things start to occur as the spirits within the Overlook want Jack's psychic son. This is so they can use his gift to bring new life to their establishment. As the hauntings become progressively worse and tensions rise, Jack becomes the hotel's right-hand man, which results in an unforgettable climax. Since I had seen the movie and miniseries of The Shining multiple times throughout my life, I never opened up the book. Which I'm not sure why I did that, but after having read it, I can wholeheartedly say this novel delivers a degree of fright and heart that has yet to be translated onto film. With that said, there are so many parts of this book that play on the idea of less is more, such as what happens in 217 and the tunnel scene. Nonetheless, when King decides to really let his constant readers have it, he saved his most frightening and disturbing description for the climax when Danny is confronted by Jack. And due to the creep factor that King was able to pace along, the scares that this book delivers kept me awake long into the night. And when I finally did fall asleep, I was grateful that I didn't sleep alone. P.S. If you are a mood reader, this book is ideal to read in November or early December, as it does sync up with Thanksgiving. And last is Jennifer McMahon's supernatural classic, The Winter People. So this blends a mix of mystery and horror, and the plot focuses on a diary from the 1800s, where a woman named Sarah becomes grief-struck after the unexpected death of her young daughter. However, in the process of mourning, she recalls that a loved one from her past had left her instruction on how to resurrect the dead for the total of 7 days. From here, a domino effect of events occur, which leaves Sarah's town terrified for well over a century. Y'all, this book was pure nightmare fuel from beginning to end, and every time I thought I had it figured out, I didn't. Also, due to how fast-paced everything was, my adrenaline remained rushed to the point that my heart actually raced, which because of that, there were multiple times where I nearly stood up and screamed due to things being so damned intense. On top of that, because I was so invested in what was happening and I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings, this is actually the first book I've ever read that scared me in the middle of the day. But among the many scenes that scared the hell out of me, a few moments in particular regarded what was in the closet, the twist, and just about everything when the contemporary characters went into the devil's hand. Once again, for those of you who are mood readers, this book starts at the beginning of January, so reading this after the new year would be the perfect time. Well, those are the 3 books that scared the ever-loving living hell out of me in 2024. And as I previously said, I feel like 2025 is going to be a promising year. Also, if you read any books in 2024 that scared the hell out of you, please name drop them in the comments below, as I'm always looking for the next book that will cause me to lose sleep. Since we're at the end of this video, I would just like to note that if you would care to become a member of this channel or join my Patreon or hunt me down on social media, I have included links in the description section of this episode for you to have easy access. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, be sure to subscribe and click that notifications bell, as I do have more videos coming in the near future. So until we see each other again, I hope you have a great week and sweet nightmares.